Hi, this is Sue Jackson of the Book by Book blog, and I'm here today with another Friday Reads. This is a fun update because Big Book Summer just started 1 week ago today, and it is already in full swing. I am loving seeing so many booktubers join in. This is the 12th year of the Big Book Summer Challenge, and I ran it on my blog for the first probably 9 years. Only introduced it to BookTube in either 2020 or 2021. And so it's slowly caught on here on BookTube. But this year, I don't know, something happened. I announced the beginning of it, and on Friday, I had a busy day on Friday. I got up Saturday morning, checked my laptop, and there were already like 30 comments on the post saying, on the video saying, I'm going to join in. There were already over 50 people joined in the Goodreads group. You don't need a channel to join the Big Book Summer Challenge. It's just been wonderful, plus a bunch of bloggers. It's just been wonderful to see the great response this year. And it's going to be more fun than ever with so many people joining in. So I will link down below both my Big Book Summer video and the blog post that has all the details. Everyone is welcome to join in. So before I jump into my Big Book Summer reading, I have to tell you about a couple of shorter books that I finished this week that are both just amazing. First, The East Indian by Brenda Chari. This book was a Booktopia selection last year in 2023. That's the event I attend every spring in Vermont with my mom. This one was my mom's favorite last year, and I didn't get to read it before the event last year. It may have just been coming out the week of the event or something like that. My mom jumped right on it and loved it. And it's taken me this long, but I finally got to it. I picked it because it was a short book also, and I thought, oh, I can fit this in before Big Book Summer. It ended up taking me until a couple days ago, but it was just as good as my mom and everyone else at Booktopia had said. It is historical fiction based on the real life story of the first person from India to arrive in America during the colonial period in the 1600s. So this begins in 1635 with a 12-year-old boy named Tony, obviously not his original name, who traveled from his home on the eastern coast of India aboard a British East Indian Company ship to London after his mother died. So he was devastated by his mother's death. So he's settling in London. He's living with another man from India who has married a British woman. So he's living with them. He's found a job on the docks. Things are going pretty well. He's met a young woman who's from India as well and getting along well with her. He's got a friend. And then he and a bunch of other children are kidnapped and put on a ship to America. Apparently this was happening back then. So they arrive in Virginia in 1635 after a harrowing journey across the ocean, and Tony is made an indentured servant. Now remember, he didn't want any of this. He doesn't want to be here. And Tony is forced to make a new life here it's Virginia where he's been taken. He is paired with, and nobody knows what to make of him because he's dark-skinned, but it's clear he's not black. But he gets lumped in with the black people who've been brought over from Africa. It's an interesting period of time. I didn't really know about this. Really, there wasn't a lot of slavery. The blacks that were brought from Africa, as well as white kids from England, were turned into indentured servants. So it's an interesting period of history I didn't know much about. Fascinating reading about that. Tony's dream, and he eventually begins to realize it, is to be a physician's assistant, to learn about pharmaceuticals, about herbals. He's told that his father, who he never knew, was a medicine man in India. So this is what he wants to do. So that was fascinating too. Medicine in the 1600s, just be glad you didn't live back then. So wonderful book, fabulous historical fiction, fascinating, and a really beautiful story about this boy coming of age in this place he never wanted to be. And it's all about reinvention. And he talks about how he has to reinvent himself several times. And when I finished the East Indian, I finally dove into Big Book Summer. My plan was to read a shorter big book, one of only about 400 pages, at the end of May, but it's already the end of May. So I dove right into my June read for Big Book Summer, Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry. This definitely qualifies. Now for the Big Book Summer Challenge, anything of 400 or more pages counts, but this one's 850 pages. Since I announced in my video and on my blog that this is one of my books for Big Book Summer, I have had dozens and dozens of people rave about how fabulous a book this is. I chose it for June because it will also fit for June on the Range, and I'm only right at the very beginning. I'm on page 28. So I don't know a whole lot about it yet. It is about two men who own a ranch in 1870 Texas, and they're right on the Texas-Mexico border, right near the Rio Grande. They can see Mexico across the river. These two men are ex-Texas Rangers. They're running this ranch in the area just sounds, it's desert-like. There's just not much there. They said it typically rains about twice a year, and they're trying to make a life. But in this desolate spot, the town is called Lonesome Dove. I do want to say one thing, because a lot of people have told me that they're also going to read Lonesome Dove this summer. So I have made it the read-along for Big Book Summer. Just kind of happened. So if you're in the Goodreads group for Big Book Summer, there is now a discussion thread. Yesterday I put up the first discussion thread, which is no spoilers. So be aware of that. I'll put up a second one if you're in the middle of it where you can talk about what's happening. But speaking of spoilers, if you have this copy, this version, do not read the preface from the author, because it's a little page-and-a-half preface. So I thought, oh, I'll read that. That's interesting. And it is a little interesting in how he got the idea for the story and how he began writing it. But then he gives away the ending of the book. He gives away major plot points. I do not like spoilers, so that really upset me. So if you've got this version of Lonesome Dove, don't read the preface until you're done. Really looking forward to getting further into this, and everyone says it's great, so I'm looking forward to it. For my book group last week, I listened to, and I didn't finish it until this weekend, I listened to A Woman Is No Man by Etaf Rum. This is a really powerful novel about 3 generations of Palestinian American women. It is a very difficult novel. Women live a very limited role in this family. There is a lot of domestic abuse, which is really, really hard to read. My book group all agreed on that. In fact, some people rated it lower because it was difficult. But it was also one of the best discussions we've ever had. We really got into so many different topics spurred on by this fabulous book. The role of women in Arab culture, some of the history, what's going on with Palestine right now. We talked about world events and history and religion and the differences and similarities between religions. And we agreed that some of the extremism portrayed in this novel you can find in any religion in extremist arms of it. So a very difficult book, but also a very rewarding and powerful book, and one that is really important for people to read. Now, the author, mine didn't have an author's note at the end, but one of our book group members said hers did, and the author said that it was autobiographical, that it actually hewed very close to her own experiences, which is horrifying. So, we agreed this absolutely should not be taken as, and any novel should not be taken as the experience of all people in that culture or religion. But this one, in particular, because it is such a negative view, this is not all Palestinian Americans. It is not all Arab or Muslim families, but it is this one family. And I'm sure there are others like this. And for those reasons, it's a really powerful and important novel. And then even before I started Lonesome Dove, I dove into my first audio big book of the summer, and that is The Women by Kristen Hanna. And this is fabulous. And again, this is another one. Everyone's been raving about it for months. I was saving it for Big Book Summer. Wow, what a way to kick off the challenge. This book is so good. It's about women's experience during Vietnam, and in particular, one woman, Frankie, who signs up when she's only 20 years old for the Army. She has graduated early from nursing school, but she has no experience, and she is thrown into the thick of it. After basic training, she gets sent over to Vietnam. All of the horrors of that war are portrayed here, and Frankie and her fellow nurses, we get a close view of what they experience. Now, I know that the book also follows them after the war and the lack of respect that soldiers got back in the U.S. So far, it is a stunning novel. I was completely engrossed from the very first chapter, and it's only gotten better and better. Fabulous novel, and I can't wait to listen to the rest of it. So that's what I'm reading this week. I would love to hear what you're reading, and if you plan to participate in Big Book Summer, let me know in the comments down below.